This metal plate and this saw. They both represent pivotal moments in my life. This metal plate was cut out of me by a surgeon 2 weeks ago, and the last time I wore this sock, it was cut off of me by a team of paramedics. As I lay there in the grass, in complete serenity, I didn't know who I was, what I was doing, or how I got there. They say ignorance is bliss, and in that moment, it truly felt like it was. But I'd seen my friends in the same situation, and I laughed, and I'd strive to put my opponents in the same situation. But when it was me, when I was there, it was different. It made me question the machismo or the culture that I've been involved in for the last 10 years, ever since I was just a little boy. And it made me question how my own actions had perpetuated that machismo. Let me give you some background. Here's a video from the 13th of July last year. I'm the one carrying the ball. If you didn't see, I got high tackled, and my completely limp body fell to the ground. In that fall, I broke my fibula in 2 places. This is an x-ray. I had been knocked out, and testament to what I was saying before, that wasn't my first concussion of the season. In fact, it was my 3rd. That's the most amount of concussions you're allowed to have in a season, according to the Australian Rugby Union guidelines, prior to them calling the season short for you. However, it's not that legislation I have an issue with. In fact, I support it. It's the general attitude towards head trauma in contact sports that I have an issue with. First and foremost, my experiences are just that, my experiences. But having played rugby in Scotland, Brisbane, Sydney, I see some common things run throughout all the cultures there. I'm no sinless preacher. When I was 13, my best friend had to quit rugby because of how many concussions he had received. The doctor wouldn't let him keep playing. But I made fun of him because completely selfishly, I wanted him to keep playing. When I got my first diagnosed concussion and the whole left side of my field of vision was rotating counterclockwise, I kept playing till halftime because completely selfishly, I wanted to play. In the aftermath of that video, when the paramedics came in the ambulance to pick me up, I convinced my friends to lie with me and tell them that I'd only been concussed 1 time the season before. Because still, completely selfishly, I wanted to play. And that's the crux of the issue. Everyone wants you to play. You want to play, your friends want to play, and your coach want to play. When we're talking about an injury with no physical symptoms, if you say you're fine, then you're fine. I've heard the saying attributed to injuries in contact sports such as American football and rugby before. They say, are you injured or are you hurt? But when you're talking about brain trauma, that line becomes so skewed and vague, it almost becomes subjective. In a sport where the respect of your teammates is of the utmost priority, especially as a player, an injury with no physical symptoms can make you question your own masculinity. The pervasive attitude of jog it off just doesn't cut it when it comes to head trauma. I've come out of tackles so disoriented, I didn't know which team I was on, which country I was in, and I just matched the jersey I was wearing to people on the field with the same jersey and ran to that side of the field. I've been forced to play 3 full games of rugby back to back on the same day as punishment for missing training. And it left me with migraine headaches so severe, I spent the rest of the night in the fetal position, hoping these headaches would pass. Do you know the only thing I questioned the entire time through all those experiences? It was myself. I questioned if I was being soft, but when I was laying there on the grass, seemingly having magically been transported off the field in my sleep, it felt like I had my questions answered. I could stand here and tell you that in the last 20 years, they found a condition called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, also known as CTE. And I can stand here and tell you how repeated bouts of head trauma, even subconcussive, lead to the formation and agglomeration of tau protein in your brain, which cuts off the blood supply to the amygdala and hippocampus, eventually causing them to rot. This leads to your brain essentially disintegrating, and your memories change, you forget them, and most significantly, your personality changes. I could also tell you how it leads to Alzheimer's in very young people who have played high-level contact sports. And for those of you who have been lucky enough not to have an experience with Alzheimer's in your personal life, I could tell you how terrifying a prospect that is for a young man. But the science is out there. Heck, there's even a Will Smith movie on it. Rather, I want to challenge the attitude towards the sport. I believe it's only through this collective action that we can save the sport. And to be honest, over the last few years, I've thought to myself whether or not I would let my own child play rugby union if he wanted to. And to be frank, at the moment, that answer is no. And I say that knowing full well how much experience and how many life lessons I got taught on the rugby pitch. But in my opinion, it's just not where it needs to be right now. I think only together we can use collective action to challenge the toxic masculinity that is so rife in contact sports. And I want us all to take the steps required to save the sport. This means caring about concussions, even if it's not for yourself, for the people around you. If you know someone who's concussed, don't just laugh at them, don't make jokes like I used to. Ask them if they're okay. And together, we can save the sport that we all grew up watching and loving.